Metro Police are trying to track down a suspect that was involved in a shooting. Police say a 15-year-old was shot and injured in a McDonald's parking lot on Harding Place. Police say that's where the groups were meeting up. Now here's a picture of the car police are trying to track down. Take a really good look. It's a two-door Dodge Challenger. Now this happened around 4:30 yesterday afternoon. So if you were in that area or know anything at all, go ahead and give Metro Police a call. Now to some of your top coronavirus headlines from around the state. First, it's official. A mask mandate is back in place in Memphis. People in Shelby County will now have to wear them in all public settings. That goes into effect tomorrow morning, and it applies to everyone 2 years old and older. Something else to note here, you still have to mask up even if you're vaccinated. And then in Chattanooga, the mayor announced that he tested positive for COVID. Mayor Tim Kelly says he's fully vaccinated, but after having some mild allergy-like symptoms, he went to get a test. He'll work from home while he quarantines for the next 10 days. And then right here in Middle Tennessee, Franklin Special Schools will consider a temporary mask mandate at a meeting tomorrow. If it passes, masks will be required in all schools and buses for students and staff. We'll keep you posted as soon as that information comes in tomorrow night. The legendary rock band Foreigner wrapped up their concert at the Ryman in downtown Nashville. People who have already gotten 2 doses of the COVID vaccine will soon be encouraged to get a booster shot. The Biden administration announced yesterday that the first booster shots are going to be going out September 20th. The CDC says near the 8-month mark after the second dose, antibody levels drop. Officials say a booster shot increases them by at least tenfold. Lots of opinions on this, though, as you all know. The World Health Organization says boosters aren't needed and might take away from people who haven't even gotten their first dose. This next story is pretty terrifying. A group of women from Texas say they almost came face to face with burglars at their Airbnb in Nashville. Word says thousands of dollars worth of their stuff was taken, including things like purses, iPads, and AirPods. The Airbnb owner says he's changing all the locks on his property and he's going to start beefing up security moving forward. And speaking of Airbnbs, here's your warning now. If you're planning on renting one over Halloween weekend, don't throw a party. The company will have a one-night ban during Halloween to keep COVID cases from spreading. They did this last year too, so this is something really good to note if you have friends or family coming in town. Again, that's going to be Halloween weekend. Could U.S. troops still be in Afghanistan beyond President Biden's August 31st deadline? This morning, that's a possibility. Yesterday, President Biden suggested that he's willing to keep U.S. forces in that country until all Americans who want to leave are out. This morning, the Pentagon says about 5,000 Americans and officers have been evacuated since the Taliban took over. 10 to 15,000 are still left. As they're waiting, we're learning the U.S. military may not be able to rescue Americans who can't get to the airport evacuation point. Meantime, we have some heartwarming pictures coming out of airports all across the nation. The first wave of evacuees from Afghanistan are finally landing in the U.S. These are scenes from Washington, D.C. as the first Americans land and reunite with their families. To California now, where a new, fast-moving fire is threatening areas east of Sacramento. It's forcing thousands to evacuate. NBC News is reporting that the Caldor fire exploded more than 8 times its size between Tuesday and Wednesday morning. Now it's at 62,000 acres, and there's been 2 serious injuries reported. To make things worse, gusty winds and dry conditions are creating even more danger. As you can imagine, people in its path are pretty shaken up. In New York City, a man is recovering this morning after being attacked by a hatchet. This surveillance video shows the man using an ATM machine, and then watch this. The suspect ambushes him from behind and starts destroying all of the machines. This morning, that man with an extensive criminal history is behind bars. Those are the emotional pleas from a former school resource officer. Scott Peterson is accused of not entering a high school in 2018 as a gunman killed 17 people inside. Peterson appeared in a Florida court yesterday. The hearing was to dismiss 7 child neglect charges and a perjury charge. His attorney says Peterson didn't know where the shots were coming from. Surveillance video shows Peterson on his radio, but never going into the building. The attorney says Peterson is not a caregiver like a parent or teacher, so he shouldn't be charged with child neglect. Prosecutors say Peterson's role as a school resource officer was to protect kids. This morning, United Airlines is advising its employees not to duct tape passengers to their seats. Yeah, you heard that correctly. The ban coming down on a memo sent to workers. Now, if you're going to Dunkin' Donuts today for breakfast, go ahead and ask for this. This is the Titans donut. It's topped with vanilla icing and drizzled with blue icing. Dunkin' Donuts is celebrating the release of the new donut with a whole party, and it's at ROSAL Park's Boulevard today. If they let us scoot out of here, maybe we'll get some of those donuts.
Yeah, I'm in.
Dunkin' treats us right.
Let's just sneak out at 8 o'clock.
Don't tell on us, anybody.
Be the first ones there.
Some people might run into some rain, though, if they are heading out that way.
Yeah, seriously. So
there's a major need for healthcare professionals in Tennessee. Right now, our state says they're looking for about 1,500 travel nurses, making our state the 4th highest in demand. News 4's Marissa Sulik spoke to a nurse who's actually moving here in a few weeks, and she tells us why. And check this out. We went to the state's website this morning and just typed in the word nurse. More than 10,000 hits came back in healthcare alone. Some are a few months old, but this just shows you the scope of how many job openings there are right now. Since Sunday, we've jumped to 300 COVID hospitalizations in Tennessee. As of this morning, we're just below 2,500 across the entire state. Our peak was in January, where we were over 3,300 at one point. And at this point, we could easily climb to that number in just a couple weeks. Both of those guys on your screen refused to wear a mask. One had to go back to the gate, and the other didn't even make it through. That person tried to get on another flight, but of course, faced the same problem. Earlier this week, the TSA extended the mask mandate through the beginning of next year. This comes after a report from the FAA finds 2,800 cases of passengers violating the rules. That being said, there's been a massive spike in unruly passengers over the past year. A majority of these cases, of course, have something to do with masks. We're seeing another drop in air travel in the new Delta wave, too. After a major jump this summer, travel hit a 10-week low. TSA screened 1.6 million people at airports on Tuesday, which, yeah, it sounds like a lot, but it's actually the lowest number since June. And I know a lot of you are super bummed out about this one. Garth Brooks announced yesterday that he's pulling the plug on his tour. The other concerts were set for Cincinnati, Charlotte, Baltimore, and Foxborough. Earlier this year, Brooks' wife, Trisha Yearwood, tested positive, forcing the couple to quarantine. So he's pretty passionate about this. Brooks and his team released a statement saying, in part, "In July, I sincerely thought the pandemic was falling behind us. Now, watching this new wave, I realize we're still in the fight and I have to do my part." We also just found out that Jason Isbell is dropping the Bristol Rhythm and Roots reunion because of COVID. More officers will soon be patrolling DEMONBREUN after a rise in violence there. Yesterday, Police Chief John Drake met with other business owners to talk about amping up safety. Now, it's a much-needed move because there have been 3 shootings in the area since April. The most recent one happened Sunday morning. Chief Drake says he's doing what he can to fix the problem, and of course, business owners there hope that this ends the violence as well. Now to a warning for people living in Smyrna. Police say a couple of burglars are roaming the city and wearing law enforcement badges. Take a look. Here they are. New details this morning about a fire that burned down most of a Tennessee church. Investigators believe it was lightning that sparked it. Riverview community is a total loss after the fire broke out in Greenville Tuesday. Fire crews got there as fast as they could, but power lines were already down when they got there. Investigators are calling the fire a ripple effect. Lightning struck, lines went down, and then the fire burned for 4 hours. And we're just a couple weeks away from international soccer coming to Nashville, and the prize is already here. On September 5th at Nissan Stadium, the U.S. men's soccer team takes on Canada. Well, the week of waiting is over, and I know we're all super excited about this one. Our very own NOLENSVILLE boys get their first swing at the Little League World Series. Now, the team has been up in Williamsport for a couple of days now after winning the Southeast region. They'll play Ohio in the first round game, and you can watch all of that on ESPN. Tennessee takes the field today at 2 o'clock, and of course, we wish them the best of luck. A lack of microchips is impacting new and used cars. Experts say that this can affect what kind of car you want to drive if you're looking for one. Across the U.S., states are cracking down on masking in schools, and some are even gearing up for legal battles. Florida Governor Rick DeSantis banned all mandates. Today, a Florida judge will hear arguments from a group of parents that are fighting against it. The parents say the order violates the Florida Constitution, and a Texas school district believes that they found a loophole to the governor's ban. Masks will now be required as a school dress code. The Paris Independent School District says the governor's order can't stop them. The school board can decide the length of skirts, hairstyles, and uniforms, so now they're saying that a mask is required clothing. And people in Maine are a little bit confused this morning. You won't believe this. It looks like a giant brought his favorite toy out to the harbor. People are still trying to figure out why and how a big rubber duck made its way onto the water. Man, that thing is massive. It's been in the harbor for the past couple days. He's not bothering anyone. All it's doing is putting smiles on people's faces. Overall, the floating bird has been met with love. Whatever the meaning is here, visitors and locals hope it's here to stay. Can you even imagine if you walked out to the Cumberland or Percy Priest and saw something like that floating there?
I mean, in the Percy Priest, not really.
I kind of wouldn't be surprised.
Nothing surprises me out of the Percy Priest. Like,
you know what? We're going to have so much rain coming on later on. People might be able to put a rubber duck on some of our roads.
Yes,
Hopefully
seriously.
Not.
The
FDA is sending out a warning about a company that makes several types of pet food. They believe the products caused hundreds of animals to get sick or die. The 12 users were singled out a month ago, and Facebook says they were behind a majority of coronavirus misinformation. I'm sure you've heard this or dealt with it too. It's become a really hot topic for social media companies to shut down. The disinformation dozen was first discovered in March, so it took a while to take care of it. The White House hammered Facebook in July for letting the people behind the scheme stay on the website. And we told you about this briefly yesterday. T-Mobile says more than 40 million people have fallen victim to hackers. Most of them are former or potential customers who applied for T-Mobile credit. The company says their names, social security, and IDs are now compromised.